Old Men Stories up in the morning, selling cars. Isn't it beautiful, Paul?
Yes, sir, it is. It is. We've had so much rainfall here, which, of course, as you know, all over the country. Last year, nobody got any rainfall. And this year, it's been exactly the opposite. We've had record rainfall. I mean, it was so funny that, you know, when the farmers 4, 5, 6 days, Roland needed some rain, I got some rain. It was just amazing, and this will be a record corn crop this year. And last year was a record bad corn crop.
Oh, so yeah, it was terrible.
It was, and it was so widespread, so widespread. So, and you know, this is the nice thing about Paducah in this area is it isn't just agricultural. We do have some light industry. We have the river industry, the transportation industry here that has just really taken off in the last 10 to 20 years. So we've got some good things going. It's not, we just don't depend strictly on agriculture. So.
Around here, you hit the rivers. You got the Ohio that's
yes, sir.
A block this way, and the Mississippi a couple blocks that way.
Yes, sir. That's right. And the Ohio and the Tennessee, the confluence is at the foot of Broadway.
That's right.
Here in Paducah. So
it's just awesome. Oh, that's someone calling your lot.
That's my competitor over there.
Oh, is that your competitor?
Yeah, he has an outside speaker.
Yeah. Do you have outside speakers?
I know, sir. I don't. I don't. But they do over there. So we might hear Tom line 7. Tom line 7. So.
Oh, you don't hear on there. Come on across the street.
No, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. I don't think. Or they haven't done it yet. How about that? When we had our groundbreaking ceremony out here about 3.5 years ago, I had some dignitaries, I had cameras, I had the mayor and the commissioners and so forth, and one jerk across the street went over there and they had a Mustang GT Cobra, and he sat over there, Roland, and revved it and revved it and revved it. Wow. I thought, now come on, boys, that's being pretty chicken shit. But excuse me on that. But nonetheless, it was. They didn't do it again, but they're good neighbors. We've been competitors for a long time.
1947.
1947. We both started with downtown dealerships, and our dealerships were 1 block away from each other. And now here on Park Avenue, we're across the street from each other.
And you're both both your dads.
Yes, sir.
Both
yes, sir. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, it's, you know, I've always noticed that car dealers cling. They
yes,
get.
Sir. Yes, sir.
They have a tendency. I guess they get statistics show they get more business because they get closer to each other.
It's the old McDonald's Wendy's concept. Wherever McDonald's is, Wendy's wants to be across the street, and Burger King is across the street from them. So it attracts more people. We were downtown for 63 years, and our downtown, like many places, have changed and continues to change. It's not the retail center of Paducah any longer. And back then in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, we were on Car Dealer Row, and then Car Dealer Row moved out here, and we were one of the last ones to move out here, but now we're on Car Dealer Row. So.
Oh, that's great. Did you leave the old one open? Or?
Yeah, no, I didn't. My competitor, he left his open down there, and he only sells lower priced older cars, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want 2 locations, and so I have leased that building and that lot out to an IT firm. So now it's looking towards the future instead of the past.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And what in the car? What do you think is in the future?
In the future,
I know over the last few years, used cars have been much more a number than new cars.
Mm-hmm. Well, that pendulum swings both ways, and the pendulum has kind of swung in the last couple of years back in favor of the new car dealerships. They have gotten much more aggressive in their pricing. Of course, with the bankruptcy of General Motors and Chrysler, it led them to do a lot of cost restructuring and forgive a lot of debt. And so consequently, they haven't been jumping on their prices like they would usually do as they've done in the past. And so it's always competition. It's never easy.
Oh, yes. I'm just I look at used cars and car people, and I shiver, at thinking.
Well, I hope we're not scary.
No, it's not about this. No, it's not about that. It's about me being a businessman and looking and taking on their responsibilities.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you got everyone in the universe wants to sell a car that you want to sell, and and almost anyone in the universe can sell a car.
Yes, sir.
So you have to have a special something.
You do.
To stay in business a long time.
You have to distinguish yourself from the pack. Of course, as we said earlier, longevity is the key to this, and if you do not treat your customers right with the right kind of quality product, you'll be by the wayside. And as I said, I've seen a lot of them come and go, and we're still here. We're still doing things the right way, and that continues to pay off.
Oh, that's great.
77% of my business is repeat.
Is that right?
That's a very high figure in my business.
That's an awesome figure.
Yes, sir. I always want new customers, just like you.
Well, first of all, you gotta. For me, you have to wait till my car. I have to push it with my foot.
Well, I'll make sure you don't leave here today. They're doing that to your car right now, Roland.
Oh no!
Just keep looking at me, sir. It's okay. Trust me, I sell used cars.
This is wonderful. I've had pretty good experience all my life with people selling me used cars.
Yes, sir.
And car goes 1 year, 2 years, and it's half price.
The depreciation factor on a new car is usually pretty strong. We have seen in the last couple of years the percentage hasn't been as low as what it usually was. There's been a shortage of good quality used cars in the last couple of years, and due to the economic crash of 08 and 09, a lot of our cars that we would get previously were what we call off-lease cars. Every 3 years, people would lease a new car and then turn that one in, and then the leasing company would sell it, and dealers such as I would buy them. And of course, leasing crashed in 08 and 09. It practically dried up and went out of business. It is coming back now, but it did help to create a pretty good shortage of quality used cars. But we're working our way through that, and as I said, the pendulum swings both ways. So the new car dealer right now are selling a lot of new cars and trucks, and in 1 to 3 years, those will all be nice used cars and trucks.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. And one of the things about the newer cars is in 2 years they aren't in as bad a shape as the old new car.
Exactly. Well, the thing about it was back, I remember my dad telling me back in the 50s and the 40s, right at 50,000 miles, you had to overhaul the engines. You had to grind the valves, put in new lifters, and do an overhaul, and that was just accepted. Nowadays, we trade for cars way in excess of 200 to even 300,000 miles, that after I trade with them, Roland, I say, okay, we've traded, it's mine. Now tell me what you've had to do to it. Well, I changed oil in it. Yeah, I know that. Well, I put on some sets of tires. Yeah, I know that. Had to put on some belts, maybe a muffler. I said, well, what about the engine, the transmission? No, I just never did have to do anything to it. So you hear that now. That is fairly commonplace, where 30, 40 years ago, never in your wildest dreams. So cars are lasting longer, and consequently, people, I think, are keeping their cars longer than what they did.
Yeah. Well, I got my first car, I think, when I was about 56.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was a 47 Plymouth. And it had rust. Everything rusted out there really fast.
They did.
And I could see the ground when I was standing at the wheel. I had to put my feet up high so that I could drive it.
Right.
And that thing was all rusted out. I'm from Minnesota, so they salted everything.
Sure they did.
And I would look down, and in wintertime, and you've heard of Minnesota winter.
Yes, sir.
Like 30 below, and the wind was blowing up that hole, and I tried to cover it with stuff, and wasn't a warm ride.
You know,
Got me to school.
you know what makes a perfect remedy for that?
What?
A stop sign.
A stop sign?
A stop sign. Yes, sir. You can take a stop sign and cut it a little bit and put it down in floor pans of cars. I have seen that happen before.
Wow.
Yes, sir. A stop sign.
Hear that? Something brand new. So
Yeah.
you got something to do with your quarter stop sign.
That's right. But don't tell the government I suggested that, okay?
No, this is going to be national, but international. But don't tell anyone.
I'll be getting a lot of bills for stop signs. But cars don't rust like they used to back then. The metal and the steel that they use now is much better for the corrosion. We just don't see cars. I remember growing up seeing cars like what you said, with big holes in the side of them. And once when that started, it was very hard to stop it. And the fix usually was temporary. The Bondo that they would use, eventually it would rust around that, and then big chunks of that would fall out. So we don't have to go through that anymore.
I thought you did. I thought I just hadn't seen mine because I started carrying it around, but it's sort of not natural. It's not normal now.
No, sir. You don't see that much anymore.
Cars have improved. Wow.
In many, many ways. The technology, the design, the safety, of course. I remember when the first cars I remember, some didn't have seat belts and some did. And of course now, that would be preposterous to think of a car not having seat belts and airbags and anti-lock brakes, and the list goes on and on.
Wow. Yeah, I remember. Seat belts?
Yeah, seat belts. I wouldn't wear those.
We're not going to wear those.
No, we're not going to wear those. And back, I remember growing up as a kid, we never wore seat belts, and well, my goodness, Roland, we're still here.
Isn't that surprising?
Evidently, it was okay.
Yeah, really. But I did have a few where I wish I'd had a seat belt.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're gonna end this, and I get Chip to say, Chip Wynn, Old Men Stories.
Chip Wynn on Old Men Stories. Your open and honest dealer. And that's my tagline. Thank you.
Old Men Stories. Selling cars